Before continuing to the next step, let's go back to our file of Axios instance. Here we have a problem. So here we must export default this Axios instance, not the Axios. So let's copy this Axios instance and paste it here. Now it is true. So we create an Axios instance and we will export default it. Now let's use format document and close it. And now let's go to the next step. So let's close everything and continue. In next step, let's create some types and some interfaces for our project. So let's go to the SRC and we created this types folder here. So here we need to create some files. Let's right click on it and add a new file here. The first file would be message.type.ts, and here we can create some types and some interfaces and use them. So I will export an interface with name of iSendMessageDTO, and it would be an object. And inside of iSendMessageDTO, I want to have a receiver username with type of string, and also I want to have a text of type of string for iSendMessageDTO. So let's format the document and we will use this in our project. So let's go to the next line, and here I can export an interface with name of iMessageDTO, and this one I want to use this iSendMessageDTO, so I can simply use extends iSendMessageDTO to inherit this receiver username and text, and let's create an object for it. And inside of this iMessageDTO, I want to have an ID with type of number, and also I want to have a sender username with type of string, and also a created at with type of string. So let's format our document again. So this is the message.types.ts file, and we created the required interfaces for our application. First, we have iSendMessageDTO with these two fields. Then we have this iMessageDTO, and we extend from this iSendMessage. So we will have receiver username and text and ID and sender username and also create that. So let's close this message.types and go to the next one. For the next one, let's right click on the types and create a new file with name of log.types.ts, and this is for the log. So we can export an interface with name of ilogdto, and this interface is an object, as you know. Inside of that, we can have a created at, which is a string, and also we can have a username with type of a string, and also let's have a description with type of a string. So let's format the document, and this is the log.type.ts. Here I simply use this ilogdto interface. That's it. So let's close this and create a new one. So let's right click and create a new file with name of auth.types.ts, and here we can create some interfaces. The first one will be export of interface of iRegisterDTO, which is an object, and inside of this register.dto, I want to have some different fields like first name, which can be type of a string, and also a last name with type of a string, and also a username with type of a string, and an email with type of a string, and also a password with type of a string, and also an address with type of a string. So this is iRegisterDTO, and we will use it in all of our application. Let's format the document and minimize it and go to the next one. After that, we will export an interface with name of iLoginDTO, which can be an object. And for this iLoginDTO, we just need to use the username with type of a string and also a password with type of a string. That's it for login. It is, I think it is enough. So let's format the document and minimize it and go to the next one. The next one would be an export of interface of iUpdateRole.dto, which is an object, and for updating our role, we need a DTO with username with type of string, and also we need a new role with type of string. That's it. This is enough for the updating our role. Let's format my document and minimize this and go to the next one. The next one would be an export of interface of auth.user, which is an object. So what we need for the auth.user, we need some different fields like ID with type of string, and also a first name of a string, and also a last name of a string, and also a username again with type of a string. And after username, we can have an email with type of a string, and also a created at, we will receive it as a string. And also we want to have some roles, and for this we'll use an array of string. So this is for the auth user, and let's format my document and minimize it and go to the next one. The next one would be an export of interface of. This time we want to have a DTO for our response of the login. So I want to have a login response DTO. Again, this is an object, and inside of this object we want to have a new token with the type of string, and also we want to have a user info. But for this user info, I want to use this auth user interface that we created here. So you can see that we are reusing this auth user, and this is a good idea. So let's format the document and minimize it and go to the next one. The next interface would be an export interface of auth context state, because we want to use some states in our context, and this is an object, and inside of that we can have is authenticated with type of boolean, and also we can have is auth loading with type of boolean, and after that we can have a user which is an optional. You can see that this is optional with type of auth user. So this is for auth context state. Let's format my document and minimize it and go to the next one. After that, I want to have an enum. So let's create an export of enum with name of auth context action types, and it is a good idea to use enums in your system. So let's do it, and it is an object, and inside of this enum we can have some different keys and values. For example, I want to have an initial with value of initial, and also I want to have a login with value of login, and also and logout with value of logout. So this is an auth context action types enum, and we'll use it in our context, and it will make our application much better and simpler to maintain, and also we can avoid some different typing errors. So let's format the document again and minimize it and go to the next one. After these types, we can use an export interface of auth context action, and we will use this action in our context, and it is an object, and inside of this object we can have a type which is an auth context action type, and also we can have a payload which is an optional type, and this payload can be type of auth user. So this is for auth context action. Let's format my document and minimize it and go to the next one. The next one is really important for us, so let's create it and export interface of auth context. So this is the interface for our context, and it is really important. Let's create it. So it is an object, and inside this object we can have some different fields. For example, I can have an is authenticated with type of boolean, and after that I can have an is auth loading with type of boolean, and also I can have an optional user with type of auth user. After that, I want to have a login, but this login is a function, and for this function we can have a username with type of string, and also we can have a password with type of string. So we will receive username and password. And what is the return type of this login? The return type is a promise with type of void. This is it. So this is a login method. We will receive a username and a password, and we will return a promise. That's it. Let's continue. After this login method, we can have a register, and this register also is a function, and for this function we can receive some different fields like the first name with type of string, and also last name with type of string, and a username with type of string, and also an email with type of string, and a password with type of string, and also an address with type of string. And what will be returned by this register? Well, this register will return a promise with type of void. That's it. And also after this register we can have a logout, and this logout is a simple function that doesn't have any input, and it just simply return a void. That's it. So let's format this document, and we will use this auth context in our auth context. So I think it's okay. Let's minimize it and go to the next one. After auth context, I want to have an export enum for my rows. So I will create this enum with name of rows enum. You know that it is an object, and we can have key and value. So for the first one, I will use an owner equals to this value of owner, and after that I want to have an admin with its value, and also a manager with its string value, and also a user with user value. So let's format the document. This is an enum of roles enum. We will use it in our project, and it is a good idea to create it here and use it in everywhere we want in our project. So let's minimize it and let's have a quick overview of what we have done in this section. So we created message.types.ts with these interfaces, and also we created log.types with ilog.dto, and then we created auth.types.ts, and we created these interfaces. We will use them in our project. So I think it's good. Let's close all of them and minimize and go to the next step. After creating our types, we want to work on our auth. So let's create some useful files and use them in our project. The first thing is I want to create an auth.utils.ts file. So we created this auth folder, and inside of this auth, I will create a new file with name of auth.utils.ts. This is it. First, let's import the Axios instance that we created in our utils Axios instance. Then I want to create a function. So let's export a new const of set session function, which is an arrow function, and I want to use local storage. So let's work on it. And inside this set session, I will receive an access token, which is the type of a string or not. So it can be null or it can be an string. And then we want to have an if-else structure to checking this access token. And we check that if the access token exists, you want to do some operations. In the first step, we want to use local storage.set item, and for the access token key in our local storage, we want to use this access token. And after that, I want to use this Axios instance that we created .defaults.headers.common.authorization, which equals to a bearer and then an space. And after that, I'm using backtick to use JavaScript, and then we can use the inside of the $sign and curly braces. We can use this access token. So the authorization headers would be bearer space this token, and you saw this on our backend project, and we use that in Swagger. So this is how we will set this authorization header in our Axios instance. So this is it. And if the access token exists, we will do this. We will set the token, and then we will set it on our headers. But if the access token is not exist, what we can do? Well, we can use local storage.remove item of access token. So we delete the token from our local storage, and also we will delete the Axios instance.defaults.headers.command.authorization. This is it. Let's format the document. So this is the set session function. We will use it to handle the functionality of our access token. So we will save this access token in the local storage, and we will send this access token in all requests of our website, and we will set it in the headers of authorization. This is it. So I think set session is okay. Let's minimize it and go to the next one. After set session, I want to have another function to get that session. So let's create it. I will export a const of get session, which is an arrow function, and inside of that, it's a simple function. We can simply return the local storage dot get item with the key of access token. So you can see that you can simply set this item and also remove this item on the set session, and we can get this item from this function of get session. This is it. Let's format the document, and we will use them in our context. So let's minimize these two functions, and these two functions are our utilities, and go to the next line. After these functions, let's have some helper arrays to help us managing our roles. I will implement them first and then talk about them. So let's minimize this explorer, and then we create an export const of all access roles, which equals to an array. So here I want to have some roles to have the all access roles here. So let's use roles enum. It will be imported automatically here. That's good. So the first thing is .owner, and after the owner, I want to have the roles enum.admin, and also roles enum.manager, and also role enum.user. So you can see that we are simply using this roles enum, and we can say that for the all access roles, we have this array, and this is the array that says that if you want to access to all access roles, you need to have one of these roles. You must be owner or admin or manager or user. Let's implement the next ones and it would be easier to understand. For next array, let's have an export const of manager access roles, which is an array, and for manager access, we want to have all of them except for user. So let's create role enum.owner and also use role enum.admin and roles enum.manager. So we use all of them except user. So that's it. Let's go for the next one. We can export a const of admin access role, which equals to an array, and we can use role enum.owner and roles enum.admin. And after that, let's export const of owner access role, which equals to an array, and we can simply use roles enum.owner. So let's format the document and let's have a quick look of them. So you can see that we are using some different arrays, and in these arrays we can say that who has access to this. So for the admin access role, we can say that the logged in user must be owner or admin. For the manager access, the logged in user must be owner or admin or manager. And for example, for the owner access, just the owner can have access to this. So this is it, and you can see that this is a part of my business logic. Now we need to specify which roles can be updated by the logged in user. So this is really important for us. Let's create its function. So we create an export const of a load roles for update array function, and this is an arrow function. So what is the input? We want to have the logged in user as our optional input with type of auth.user, and then we say that the return type of it is a string of array, and then we can simply return a new values of a string of array. So we want to check that if the logged in user exists, and this logged in user dot roles that includes roles enum dot owner. So we will check that, and on the both true and false situation, we will return some different arrays. So if it's true, we can simply return the roles enum.admin and roles enum.manager and roles enum.user. Else, we can return roles enum.manager and roles enum.user. So this is it. Let's press Ctrl space to import this auth.user, and it is imported. That's good. Now let's format the document. So what is this function? This function helps us to update the role of another user. So if the logged in user is owner, we say that the owner can change the admin and manager and the user roles. Else, if it is not owner, he is an admin, and we will say that the admin can change the manager and the user, exactly like what we have done in our backend. This is it. So let's minimize this and go and create a comment for our new function. So we need to control the owner cannot change the owner role, and also the admin cannot change the owner role and the admin role. And we need to implement this functionality here. So let's create a function for it. So let's create an export const of is authorized for update role, which is an arrow function. And for this arrow function, we want to receive the logged in user role with type of string, and also we want to receive the selected user role with type of string. And inside of that, first let's create a new result variable with the value of true, and then we check that if the logged in user role equals to roles enum.owner, and also the selected user role equals to owner, so we say that the result is false. So the owner cannot change the owner. That is simple and easy. Else, we will check that if the logged in user role equals to roles enum.admin, and also the selected user role equals to roles enum.owner, or the selected user role equals to roles enum.admin, we can simply say that the result is false, and then we can simply return this result. So let's format the document and talk about it. So here we first say that the result is true, and in these two situations we can check that if it is not authorized, we return false. So the first thing is we check that if the owner want to update an owner, we say that you cannot, and the result is false, so he is not authorized. And then if the logged in user role is admin and the selected user role is owner or admin, again he cannot change it. That's it. So I think it's okay. So we will use if you're asking what is the difference between this is authorized and allowed role for update array, you can see that the return here is a boolean. So we will check that the login user is authorized or not. But in the top one, we are returning an string array. And here we return an array that will use it for the inputs of select for updating the role. You will see that on the next section. So I think let's format the document to be sure about it. And let's minimize this allowed roles for update array. And also this is authorized for update role. And close this file. So let's go to the auth. We created this auth.utils, and inside that we created these utilities for our project. So let's close it and go to the next step.